In terms of the missing paint, as you can see, the horse's head is in a bad way, and I'm planning to actually remove some areas of paint and then try to spray this after masking. Elsewhere I'll do some retouching. Here, for instance, and over here. Overall it's pretty good, just some very small spots that will need to be done in this area. Now the next thing I'm actually going to do is deal with this sort of bullet hole. It's in the credits window area, and someone's obviously made a hole in there to poke a stick through or something to try and move the credits wheel to gain free games. So there's the hole, there's also a crack that goes either side, and what I'm planning to do is drill out the whole of that area. So there'll be a rectangular piece with rounded corners that will need to be made to slot in there. Slightly nervous about it, but using a mini drill and then a file, I think I can remove that section, hopefully without any further damage. This is of course a plastic back glass, or I would not be attempting anything like that. And I've got some 3mm new perspex to make that little window piece, and it does match up very well with the thickness of the original. That's actually going to be the first job now on the back glass, and there's some retouching needed on the Gottlieb name there. There's dirt that needs to be cleaned off with a swab, which I'm going to do now. Lots of dirt coming off. The background colours are really bright, and overall it looks really good. Now we can see here, that's where I'm intending to retouch these areas of loss. Similarly over here, if I change the angle, you can see where the paint in those areas is delaminating, and there'll probably be some further losses in the future, but I'm only going to treat the actual missing areas at this time. Maybe some triple thick Krylon on the back at some future date, but that's the plan at present. And Horsey is in the worst state. You may not be able to see this, but this is good, and obviously the white area is where we've got our problem. That needs to be a greeny brown. Some surviving examples of this game, the horse is very brown, some he's a greeny brown. I'm going to match the greeny brown areas that are there. And I'm going to try to spray most of this area after careful masking, using a little artist spray gun. That's the plan at this moment. We need some translucency because this lights up. Much easier to do the touch-ups in the opaque areas. Even so, very difficult to match the colours with acrylic paint. I envy those restorers working on old oil paintings, because the colour of the paint that they apply pretty much stays that colour, and that's definitely not the case with acrylic. That's the hardest part really, getting the colour match. This is the area that's actually going to be removed. Now you can see that this crack extends outside of that area, but at least we'll get most of it, most of the mess removed if I take it out to the inside of that black line and then fill in with a new piece of 3mm acrylic. Just finished drilling the first set of holes. Now we need a second set to free up that centre section. The bullet hole is out, there it is. And I'm now tidying up the edges. I think it's definitely an improvement, going to be an improvement, because the eye is no longer drawn to that area because of the bullet hole, so the crack is much less evident, even though it's still there. Right, well, the new piece is in, as you can see, and I'm just keeping an eye on those cracks, make sure that they're not getting any longer, which they're not, and I'm about to flow some thin cyano in the cracks and some more to hold that piece in, just some dots. I can't flow it in from the back of the cracks because, oddly enough, when those cracks were made, they didn't go right through to the back, or at least the silver paint, the opaque paint on the back isn't broken, so I'm going to very carefully try to flow it in from the front. And then the paint losses I'm going to now illuminate, so it's going to look pretty horrendous for a while I fill in the areas in the opaque sections. And then the final thing I'll do will be the translucent sections, which you'll see that clearer in a moment as I switch on the rear light. Here we are. So we can now see the losses much more clearly, more so than they would even in the illuminated back box. So these are the first sections to be done. I started with the touch-ups, as you can see. Lots more to do. Now, horse's head, I've actually decided to paint rather than spray, so I don't need to remove any of the old paint. I'm working around it. And this greeny brown, or browny green rather, area I'm filling in with very, very thin coats of acrylic paint mixed with acrylic thinner. You can see the initial result, which is transparent almost. Well, it's got to be translucent but not transparent. You can see the difference there on the white area on the nose of the horse. It's translucent but not transparent, and just starting to get some mistiness as I'm starting to do this area, which was completely clear apart from a few specks of old paint. So the idea is to build that up, and using a kind of pointillist technique, try to get an even coating. It's notoriously difficult to hand paint, fill in areas on back glasses. As you can see, it starts off very patchy. That's inevitable. Over a number of layers it should gradually build up a fairly regular translucency. That's the plan. See how it goes. Gradually filling in the face. Still very spotty at present, but the main area is actually starting to fill in, not completely blank. I've just put a tissue diffuser behind to give some indication of how I'm actually getting on, and certainly improving all the time. This is a piece of frosted acetate. It's frosted both sides, and it will be going over the horse's face. Those are the ears. To act as a diffuser, so it will go over there, which I'm just about to do now, and then we'll see what that looks like. There will quite likely still be some sparkle to fill in when we've got this on the back box eventually, and we can see where the actual bulbs in the back box are causing any problems, but overall I think he's going to be fine. And certainly that's a big improvement on what there was. I think the diffuser's working okay. You might also have noticed that the two cracks seem to have almost disappeared. That's me just cheating. I've put a little bit of paint on the outside of the glass. So here's the diffuser, and that can of course be replaced by some thin white spray at some point if required. But in the meantime, if we decide to add more paint to the back, colour paint, then that can be done without worrying about the diffusion. I think that's quite a reasonable compromise at the moment. So there we are. The back glass is going into store now for about 3 months, I guess, until I've got the cabinet finished, and then everything gets put back together.